Welcome to the Game Changers Podcast, bringing you insights and influencers from the wide world of sports, business, and personal development. Here's your host, former professional athlete, author, speaker, and game changer himself, Rennie Curran. It's time to get your head in the game.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Game Changers Podcast. Once again, my name is Rennie Curran. I'm a former professional athlete, speaker, author, personal development coach, and most of all, a game changer. I'm excited to bring to you podcast episode number 15 of the Game Changer Podcast. It's exciting. I didn't think I'd be doing podcasts ever, but I'm loving the fact that I can bring people value and bring them different insights, bring them different knowledge from different industries, from guests from different backgrounds. And so today we're going to have another exciting guest to bring to you to just shed some light on something that'll just help you with your career, wherever you may be. But first and foremost, I want to give a special shout out to a couple different people, a couple different organizations, starting with Catoosa, Georgia, students of Lakeview Middle School and High School, along with their Performance Learning Center, had an amazing time out in Catoosa, just inspiring those students. They were so well receptive. They listened. As you all know, a lot of students are going through so much right now. They're faced with so many different challenges in terms of just overcoming adversity, being leaders and not followers, making the right decisions. Social media, as you all know, is a major challenge for so many students who are just trying to learn about who they are and become who they were created to be. So I love having the opportunity to go out to these different schools and just try to reach them and use my experiences and use my knowledge and my past to just have an impact on them. And for some of them, they may not get it. They may not listen to my message right then and there, but more times than not, I get that, whether it's a direct message or email that comes a year later, 2 years later. I'm really always just amazed by just how receptive they are and how they'll let you know they're appreciative. I got so many messages from them just saying, thank you for saying this. You inspired me. And I never go out to speak anywhere as a way to promote myself or to say, hey, look at me and the things that I've done. It's all about them. It's all about helping them reach that level of success, to be able to change things for their families, for themselves, for their future generation. So I loved being able to do that. So shout out to the students of Lakeview Middle School and High School and the Performance Center as well. Thank you for everyone who made that entire engagement happen. Next is the students of Little River Elementary School. This was out in Woodstock, Georgia. We had a great time getting them fired up, just talking to them also about making the right decisions to being able to achieve their dreams. And we talked about my children's book a little bit. What does it take to be a star? And I just gave them different character values that really helped me, help set me apart on my journey. Things like having a growth mindset, things like working hard while nobody's watching. So we had an amazing time. It was well over 1,000 kids. So thank you to their principal for giving me the platform to be able to do that. Next thing was having, I'm sure you're probably saying it's a lot because, I spoke about 6 times last week. It was crazy, but a lot of impact was made. The next engagement I had was through a partnership with John Gordon, who's the author of a book called Energy Bus. Amazing book that talks about the power of positive energy, having a good attitude, removing yourself from those who have a bad attitude, and just, really having an impact. That's what that book really talks about. And it's a very simple concept. If you haven't read that book, I highly suggest that you read it, share it with your team, share it with your organization, share it with your family, because it's very, very impactful. I came across John Gordon as I was going through trying to get back in the NFL. So there's a lot of ups and downs. And so I came across him as I became an author and a speaker. And we've really, really just developed a great relationship. He's always been one of my mentors and somebody who I've looked up to in the speaking industry. So, I was able to go out to Cordell, Georgia, and spend a lot of time with the City Council of Bainbridge, their mayor, a lot of people in their organization who help the city run and provide jobs and provide opportunities. They're also faced with a lot of challenges. So we had that leadership workshop. It was more of a retreat. And it was an opportunity for us to come together, create a vision, really help them to facilitate solutions and help them develop also professionally. And it was all based off the Energy Bus book. So it was a great time. I mean, I really saw the transformation, the change just by working for them with them for those 2 hours. And yeah, it was great. And lastly, I was able to go out to Austin, Texas with another company that I have a partnership with by the name of Boost. And they focus on mental toughness and leadership development. The company was created by a guy by the name of Seth Hickerson, who was a former Navy SEAL, former Air Force veteran, who also has a PhD in sports psychology. So I met him and we hit it off right away because a lot of our philosophies were the same, in terms of the things that you have to do to set yourself apart. So that's another company I recommend that you look into is Boost Mental Toughness and Leadership Training. They're doing some great things. So I'm looking forward to continue on with these partnerships, continuing to speak, continuing to do the one-on-one coaching. It's a blessing to be able to do it. The topic that I wanted to talk about today is fuel for greatness. When I talk about fuel, I'm talking more so about your diet. There's a lot of things in terms of diet that I believe in. I don't believe it's just what you put in your body. I believe it's also the thoughts that you have, the things that you allow to, permeate your brain and your mind, things that you listen to, things that you watch. That's part of your diet too, your intake of just different energies and different thoughts and different stimulus that come to you. How you intake that has a big role in just your overall success. So I wanted to spend some time on this today because I believe that you have to strive for balance. You can't just focus on, the mental. You can't just focus on spiritual. You can't just focus on emotional. But all these things must be in alignment in order for you to truly not only reach success, but also have sustainable success as well. And so for today, I wanted to talk about that and have a very exciting guest that I want to bring on to discuss more about that. And our quote for today is, one cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. That is by Virginia Woolf, who is an English writer and someone who is considered to be one of the most important modernist 20th century authors and a pioneer in the use of stream of consciousness as a narrative device. So I want you to definitely tune in to this next guest. She's definitely a game changer in her industry, and I think you're going to find a lot of great insights, a lot of good knowledge in this next interview. So thank you for listening. So I'd like to welcome a very special game changer onto the show today. She's one of the country's leading sports nutritionists who works with the Atlanta Hawks, Falcons, and the Atlanta Braves. She combines science with practical experience to help athletes at all levels maximize their athletic performance. She's also a communications expert who consults with leading food, beverage, and supplement companies regarding public relations and communication strategies. She's appeared on CNN as well as ABC, NBC, Fox, and many other television stations, as well as authored many different articles in trade publications, book chapters, and more. She earned her master's in nutrition from the University of Georgia. So she's a bulldog just like me. And then also she earned her bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science from University of North Carolina, Greensboro, where she also ran cross country. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mary Spano onto the Game Changers podcast. Mary, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Rennie. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Just been staying busy. You know how things are as an entrepreneur. Just been speaking and coaching and all that good stuff. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today.
Excited to be here. Excited to see all the things that you're doing to change the scope of practice and influence kids and, college athletes, pro athletes alike.
Definitely. I mean, you have done so many amazing things as well. And so I just want to start by just hearing more about your story and how you got into everything that you are doing currently.
Sure. Growing up, I always wanted to be in sports. I think it's what I did. It's what I could relate to. So when I was in high school, I thought, gosh, how do I get a career in this area? And at that time, sports nutrition was not incredibly common, I would say.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm going to go into sports medicine. So as you mentioned, my undergrad's exercise and sports science. I was always interested in, hey, how do you improve athletic performance? How do you make people better and healthier at the same time? And then got my graduate degree, as you said, from University of Georgia
Yeah,
in
yeah.
nutrition, worked with the student athletes there. And after that, went into business for myself and started doing some consulting work because there weren't that many full-time jobs. And it's been great to see the growth in this field.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, it's always interesting to hear people's stories, and I know it didn't just happen overnight. Could you just talk about just some of those things that you did? Whether it was relationships or what the exact tips helped set you apart early on in the game as you were trying to build your career.
I think, you know what, it was honestly just knocking down doors. You and I met at CES, now Chip Smith Performance Systems. And many years ago, I contacted Chip and I said, hey, I've worked with football players. Let me work with you and let me help, improve the performance, improve the recovery of the players you work with, and meeting people. I met somebody who introduced me to the Atlanta Thrashers. And from there, it just kind of snowballed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, building relationships, which is something you excel at.
Thank you.
Building relationships and letting athletes know that you care and you're there for them, and you'll do whatever you can to figure out what's going on and help them make improvements.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as I think back on my career and the career of so many others, I think about the fact that there's typically, one game changing moment that kind of transcends things or lets you know that, hey, I've arrived, or, that one door that opens that changes things. Can you just talk about for you whether it was a game changing moment or whether things just happened over time that led you to where you are now?
I would say it probably happened over time. And what's interesting in this line of work is, as I mentioned, a lot of it's who you meet. And as a consultant, it's what they allow me to do. So sometimes I've walked into situations where, they give me the open forum to do my job. Other times, I might be restricted by, what a team wants to do. But I would say it's slow over time. There's one key person I met who, an athletic trainer, who he introduced me. He believed a lot in everything I was doing, was very excited to have me on the team, really worked on the team approach, and he introduced me to a couple other teams. And that, I would say, is probably one of the big game changer moments.
Definitely, definitely. I'm sure we can all think of those who have kind of stepped in on our behalf and spoken up for us or gave us an opportunity that changed things for us. And the next question I have for you is, I saw that you were a former athlete. You did cross country and a few other sports along the way. And I want to know just how has being a former athlete really helped you in what you do now, as an entrepreneur in the business world, the things that you encounter and the challenges that you face.
I feel like I can't even begin to describe, and I'm sure you feel the same way, what athletics does for a person. And as a female, I think many of us know, hey, we're never going to go pro. There isn't a pro league available, or there are very few people at that elite level. But it was the discipline, the scheduling, in college that drove me. It was that team atmosphere, failing at times or having to sit on the bench and, watching your teammates injured. It's all those things that I think prepare you for life and your work life, where you have these moments and you think, gosh, how do I move forward? And I can rely on those moments where, I felt terrible. I sat on the bench, I was injured, etc. How do you get back in the game? And I rely on those all the time as, in my work life. Hey, how do I get back in the game? How do I solve this? How do I make a difference? And I just think for parents, even if your kid's never going to be at that elite level, don't push them, but give them that opportunity, because you cannot underestimate the role that sports play in a person's life.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, like you said, the discipline, dealing with disappointment, the teamwork aspect, all those things are so important. And you're right, just about parents putting the right emphasis on the lessons that you learn. And I'd love for you to just share more just about the challenges that you face, not only in the sports world, but just becoming an entrepreneur and starting out as a female, just in this industry and trying to prove yourself.
Oh gosh, that's tough. I think the initial challenge was just that it wasn't like, what is sports nutrition? So many years ago, and even today, it's still relatively new, incredibly new in Major League Baseball, which strength and conditioning is probably only 20, 25 years old in MLB. So nutrition, stepping in as a nutritionist, I think players, older people in MLB, they're like, oh, well, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? So
Exactly.
not understanding the role is one thing, and every sports nutritionist operates a little bit differently. Some
Yeah.
are very well versed in food service or culinary skills, or their culinary skills are good. Others of us really focus on that sports science application, which is what I love.
Yeah.
But lack of understanding of the field, that's a big challenge. People who want to do your job or who think that they are experts in this area, so they want to drive the supplement decisions. They want to drive, what a player's eating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's tough. And how do I overcome it? It's kind of figuring out a way to work with that person, figuring out a way to communicate what I do and how I can help.
Yeah.
And then being a little bit, I don't want to use the word relentless, but, constantly trying to figure out a way. You think about a playbook and the many different plays you have to achieve the same goal. How do you win a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your every opponent is different on the football field. Every opponent's different. Every player is so different, and you have to strategize. And I feel like in work, you have to strategize to be able to communicate and, handle different situations in life.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I know, like, dealing with sports, I've been in the locker rooms, I've been in the film rooms. I know you had to deal with just the egos and so many different politics. Like, can you just talk about how you were able to handle that?
I always say it's not the players that have the egos. I mean, I think I was amazed when I got to Georgia and started working with, phenomenal football players when I was a graduate assistant. They're not the ones that have the egos at all. Like, they're modest, they're humble, they want to work hard. I'm just constantly amazed at, how these young men, because I work pretty much all with young men, how they handle themselves. I'm just amazed.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there's so many guys out there that are trying to do the right thing, that are working hard, that don't have those egos, and that come from very, very just humble beginnings. And like you said, the last thing they want to do is rub anybody the wrong way, and they're just out here trying to make it, try to feed their fans. They're the one kid out of their hometown that made it. So I appreciate you sharing on that. And I'd love for you to just also just share about dieting and, as an athlete, how that plays a role in performance, because I know you've been around so many athletes and just seen the way that it affects them, and in terms of their performance. So could you just share on that, just the different experiences that you've had with athletes that you've worked with in the past?
It's interesting. There's an athlete I spoke with last week, and he said, when I made it to this level, there were two things I knew I needed to change. One was sleep, and the second was diet, not necessarily in that order. And I thought that was interesting. So he knew that he could get to the pro level,
Yeah.
With working hard, with his, talent, et cetera, good coaching and stuff. But hey, at some point I have to change this.
Mm-hmm.
And so with nutrition, the biggest thing I tell players is, and this isn't necessarily backed by research, but the players who eat better diets, or their nutrition intake is better, they have a longer career, they play better, and by far they are less injured and they recover faster from injuries. That's the biggest thing. Like, some players go, oh, I can get away with eating, fast food all the time. I don't gain weight, I don't gain body fat. And I always have to stop and say, hey, it's not about body fat. Here's what's going to happen. You want to heal from that muscle injury? You've got to eat better food. You've got to transition to a better diet. And I treat every person as an individual. So work with whatever is going on with them, their food tastes, their budget, because obviously people have different, amounts they can spend on food. And their schedule. Some love to cook, some don't want to cook. So I try to take all that into consideration rather than fitting people into one mold.
Yeah, I totally understand, and it's so good that to have somebody to guide them. Because I know I can think back to high school and those early years where I would just eat chicken nuggets, I would eat peanut butter, just thinking I'm getting a good source of protein. Which is crazy when I think about where I'm at now. Because as an elite athlete, there's just certain things that you can't do.
I think all of us did that. I look at what I ate in high school in between games, like softball tournaments, and I'd go get Little Caesars breadsticks and McDonald's chocolate milkshake.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I'm getting calcium. This is good. So,
Yeah.
it's common. You can get away with it to an extent at that level. The biggest thing I notice is, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Once I changed my diet after about my first year in college, I just felt a lot better. It was night and day
Yeah.
difference.
No, I totally agree. And I mean, I know you work with some baseball players, and I've seen just some of them, and they don't always look like they they have the best diet. I mean, some of those guys, I look at them and I'm like, man, y'all seriously, y'all really athletes?
It's really interesting to see the different bodies and different positions in every sport. And baseball, I think, is the last one to kind of come along. With
Yeah, I could tell.
football players, your bodies are beat up all the time. So
Uh-huh.
they football players, I feel like, quickly realize, hey, I've got to do everything right. I've got to recover. I've got to, use the foam roller. I've got to go get massage or whatever their means for recovery include, and I've got to eat, healthy foods. Baseball players, it's been a league, in the Babe Ruth era where people were smoking cigars and
Hmm.
probably drinking alcohol during the game. So it's the last sport I feel like to really come along. But in the past couple of years, I've seen major differences, especially with younger players. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to see those who take care of themselves, and you can easily see it when you're watching or when you attend the game. So, what advice would you give for that everyday person who is trying to just improve their nutrition and get to that better lifestyle? Whether they're working all the time or they have a lot of kids.
You know, it's exciting. There's one training facility I could think of that's gotten into corporate wellness, and to me, it's so exciting because you could see that they're taking what they do with athletes and they're applying it to people in the work world. Because
Yeah,
obviously, people that work, 9 to 5 or heck 9 to 6, 9 to 7, 9 to 8,
exactly.
they have to perform as well. They have to perform mentally and physically, and
Yep.
to do that, sleep is paramount. We're in a society where many people just don't get enough sleep. Sleep is incredibly important, and then eating a healthy diet so you feel better every day. You can focus and you can perform both at work and outside when you get home. You want to have that energy for your kids, your family, your significant other.
Definitely.
So that's where general healthy, starting with healthy diet principles, making produce the foundation of your diet, fruits,
Mm,
vegetables, whole grains,
gotcha.
and then adding fish and adding lean meats on top for protein to build and maintain muscle, and then getting plenty of fluid. Those are some of the basic things that every person could do,
Yeah.
plus eating less processed food. So I hate to say less food out of a package, but think
Hmm.
less processed foods that are closer to their natural state. Those will help you feel better. They'll help you with weight maintenance
Mm.
or weight loss, and you'll perform better every day.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know for me, speaking for the athletes who transition, one of the toughest things is trying to maintain that nutrition after you walk out of that world of sports where you don't have people to kind of hold your hand and give you a nutritional plan and kind of monitor what you eat. So it's very challenging. I see a lot of guys who let themselves go and guys who just kind of eat whatever and do whatever because they're not athletes anymore.
Yeah, I've seen. It's funny. I've heard some former pro athletes say to me that, what, I don't want to live that regimented life. So after I got out of the league, I just ate whatever.
Mm,
Like I don't want to have. And I'm like, you don't have to go back to what you were doing as strictly as you were doing it when you were playing. You don't have to sit there and count everything and eat a structured, meal plan, but you can incorporate some of those favorite foods that you didn't eat when you were being so disciplined, but
hmm.
uh, and still get good results. But it's almost like they go one or the other. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really regimented, and I'm going to eat everything that's healthy, and I'm never going to eat a donut, never going to eat, you know, drink a soda, etc. Or I'm going to go the complete opposite, and I'm eating everything fried and drinking soda. It's, and I help them try to find that middle ground.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. And another question I had was, there's so many trends in the nutrition world from, people who go vegetarian to um, just people who believe in being completely organic or removing all red meats. Like, what's your opinion on just the different trending diets and, whether it's organic or gluten free?
Um, it's interesting. I like the focus on plants. However, I don't think people they don't have to go vegan. And in fact, doing so, if it's not a well-planned diet, they may miss out on many important nutrients.
Yeah.
And, I've also heard the same thing. People that give up red meat, they give up, they may also give up turkey, chicken. And my thought is, if you really don't like those foods or you can live without them, hey, that's fine. We can get good quality protein, iron, zinc, etc. elsewhere.
Yeah.
But if you're really going to miss them, here's a healthy way to incorporate them into your life, because you don't have to give up those foods completely.
Got you. Another question is, what would you say to somebody who is trying to go down the same path that you are in the nutrition world and is trying to just build their way up?
I would say get as much experience as you can in a variety of settings to figure out what you love.
Yeah.
I think when people go into this field, like when I first went into it, I was very focused on, endurance sports. And then I found, gosh, I played team sports in college too, and I absolutely love this. And this is what I gravitated toward. So get that experience in a variety of settings, get to know a lot of people, expand your network, because you never know who's going to help you or who you can help. And then third, educate. So become an expert in your field. Don't necessarily diversify to where you spread yourself thin and go and try to be an expert in everything, because when you do that, you're really an expert in nothing. So instead, focus on the main parts of your particular field, whether it's nutrition, strength, and conditioning. Become really, really good at that.
Definitely, yeah, I can definitely see that. You were able to find your niche and how important that is, just in terms of the career and where you're going. Just getting that wealth of knowledge and meeting different people, and you said staying in your lane. And so yeah, that niche is everything.
Yeah, it is. I work with great people. I work with great physical therapists, athletic trainers, strength coaches. So I need to know enough about those areas, but I don't need to be an expert in everything, because I've got a great referral network.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. You're exactly right. And when you establish good relationships, those are some of the things that happen. So I'd love to just know, I know you got a lot going on. You're busy just like me. So what's kind of up next for you?
We just started baseball season. Well, we're in spring training, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to starting again with football. A month down the road, I've got some speaking engagements as well.
Nice.
Late spring and in the summer. I think every work opportunity presents a different challenge and opportunity to meet people that will mold and shape my next move in my career. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, the theme of our show is game changer. And I would love to know, just in your world, what does being a game changer mean to you?
Great question. I think it means shaping people's lives and shaping the field. So every opportunity I have to work with an athlete, each one's different. I realize that some of the young men that I'm working with now that are going through their pro day, they've been to the combine. They may never make the NFL, or they might not make the NFL for long, but how can I shape their life overall? How can I make a positive impact in, health, nutrition, and their life in general? So that's being a game changer, helping others, and then, of course, shaping the career and shaping the field in general. So shaping sports nutrition. So we, as sports nutritionists, we learn from each other, we grow, and we advance the field to help more people.
Definitely. That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I have for you is just, how can our listeners get in touch with you and find out more about your programs and what you're doing with athletes and just overall stay in contact with you and ask you for more questions or become your client?
They can go to my website using the contact form there, mariespano.com. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, social media. My name isn't that common, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
And I just want to, take a moment and thank you for everything you're doing to shape the field and, make a difference in people's lives as well.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really an honor, and I've been able to meet so many great people, including yourself. And, it's been a journey, but it's been all good. So I just really appreciate everything that you do for the next generation of athletes. So I wish you all the best and everything.
Thanks, Rennie.
Oh, yeah. And, I love being able to see all the work that you're doing, the articles, the information that you share. So any way that I can help or continue to support you, that I'm always here.
Likewise. And I look forward to, catching up with you and seeing everything that you're doing moving forward.
And there you have it. That was Mary Spano on the Game Changers podcast, one of the leading nutritionists in the industry. Learned so many insights from her just regarding nutrition and regarding athletic performance. So you heard it from her, just how to get in touch with her, mariespano.com. You can find her on Twitter. You can find her on Instagram, on Facebook as well. So make sure you get in touch with her if you want to learn more. If you're an athlete who's looking to take their performance to the next level through nutrition, or if you're just a person in general who has questions just about how to improve their overall health through nutrition. So thank you all once again for joining me on the Game Changers podcast. Make sure that you visit me as well on my website, renniecurran.com. Stay in touch with me through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram. If you have any ideas or if I can ever help anybody through coaching one-on-one in the areas of personal development, through speaking, personal brand, career development, business development, I'd love to get in touch with you and hear from you. If you have any ideas on the podcast, what stories, what topics I can share on, be sure to just let me know. Don't be a stranger.